The festival was packed with students. You see, the academy has a long tradition in which men dress as women and women as men. Inside the beer bar, the chef was preparing food in a pan. Peggy came running into the kitchen with an order slip and, with a nervous gaze, began to read and mention that there was a new order. The chef had to prepare 3 plates of Vicky's special fried chicken. Vicky, who was dressed as a witch for the festival, began to prepare the food in silence. Peggy revealed that the order was large. He had to prepare 2 plates of grilled sausage, 6 portions of sautéed vegetables with sausage, and 5 portions of rice balls. The eyes of our boy began to shine with determination. While holding the spatula with one hand, he turned around and with a calm gaze said that the order would be ready in less than 5 minutes. Their bar was packed with customers. There were so many that they were crushing poor Tudor. He couldn't help but panic ever since word had spread about their kitchen. Male customers had been arriving en masse. Just then, female customers started arriving en masse, crushing Sinclair, who couldn't help but feel dizzy and suffocated. She clenched her fists and seeing that customers were coming in like a stampede, decided it was better to take orders. In the blink of an eye, their bar was filled with customers eager to try Chef Vicky's food. Our boy, who was preparing the food in the pan, did not pay much attention to the commotion and continued working. He began to remember his past life. One day, in the middle of the night, he and the Baskerville hounds made a bonfire next to a rock in the middle of the battlefield. This festival reminded our boy of that moment since he had the opportunity to prepare the foods they used to eat on the battlefield. With a cold gaze, Vicky stuck a scorpion on a stick and prepared to roast it over the bonfire. When the era of destruction dragged on, there were no adequate provisions. For this reason, warriors on the front lines needed a way to make anything taste delicious in order to survive. Vicky stood up and placed his hands on his waist. Behind him were the corpses of the hounds of Baskerville. He knew that ingredients had to be prepared in a way that made them edible. He had discovered which parts of poisonous vegetables needed to be removed and how to restore the freshness of spoiled meat. And in the process, he had no choice but to conduct research with his own comrades. Back in the present, Vicky took out a potato and, using a knife, began cutting it into small pieces. The potatoes grown in Mog had a strong earthy smell and no flavor. Moreover, their texture was like chewing sand. But our boy knew a trick. After cutting the potatoes into small pieces, Vicky seasoned them with salt and vinegar. Then he put them in the pan to fry over high heat and added mandrake leaves and fruits from the savak tree. In the blink of an eye, our boy prepared a delicious plate of French fries, and his eyes began to shine with determination. He showed the plate to the customers since, thanks to his research, he knew how to make the earthy smell of the potatoes disappear completely, and in the process improve their sweetness and texture. The attention of Vainsy, Mogg and Dollars was fixed on the plate of French fries. Their eyes widened in surprise and admiration, leaving them speechless and making them blush. Vainsy Mogg put his hand over his mouth and looked away. Dollars stopped looking at Vicky's plate and started to gaze at the ground. Due to the fact that our boy was wearing a costume as profane as that of a witch, Vainsy Mogg had lost his mind for a moment. While Chef Vicky was distracted preparing the food, Bianca, who was wearing the Frankenstein costume, came running to the kitchen and with a confused gaze asked why Vicky was in the kitchen. Her eyes filled with fury. She began pointing at our boy with her finger and with a furious gaze made it clear that Vicky was not a person who should rot in the kitchen. He had to go out and attract customers. Vicky snapped out of his thoughts, turned to her, and with a serene expression promised to stop cooking and go out to attract customers. Just before Bianca could finish the sentence, Tudor appeared. And with a sincere expression explained that Vicky could not leave the kitchen since without Vicky's food, the kitchen would be ruined. Upon hearing this, Bianca's attention fixed on him and her eyes widened in confusion. Bianca did not agree with him. Tudor approached her, extended his hands, and argued that Vicky was an indispensable talent in the kitchen and also revealed that many people were in love with the taste of Vicky's cooking. Bianca clenched her fist and with a furious expression thought that Tudor was making fun of her. According to her, if Vicky went out to look for customers with his beauty, sales would down. While they were arguing, at some table in the bar there was a man wearing a cap and a mask, sitting and enjoying the food. He wiped the remnants of the food with a napkin and fixed his attention on Tudor and Bianca, making his eyes start to shine, causing a smile to appear on his face. He had had a hunch and it had turned out to be true. The man left the knife on the table and began to release mana. Despite being inside the kitchen, Vikia felt the mana and his eyes started to shine with fear, putting him on alert. His eyes widened in surprise and terror. He began to follow the trail of mana and turned around. While Tudor and Bianca were arguing, the man started to release even more mana. It was none other than Osiris Le Baskerville. He grabbed the knife again. And while his eyes were shining with excitement, he took off his mask and began to observe Vikia in silence. Our boy became confused and curious since he did not know what Osiris was doing here. A while later, Vikia left the kitchen and met Osiris behind the bar. Osiris began to observe our boy, and with a smile mentioned that it had been a long time since he had come to this festival, revealing that he had also worn the woman's costume when he attended the academy. But he did not think his costume had been as beautiful as Vikia's. Vikia's eyes widened in confusion. He called Osiris brother and asked what he was doing here. Osiris crossed his arms and with a sincere expression mentioned that it was the duty of an older brother to come to the rescue when his younger brother was in trouble. Vikia remained silent, not knowing what Osiris meant. A smile appeared on Osiris' face. At that moment, his cape began to move. He started observing Vikia and revealed that someone desperately wanted to see him. Something emerged from Osiris' cloak and jumped. It was someone wearing a rabbit costume, who quickly gave Vikia a hug. Seeing this, his eyes widened in surprise. It was Pomeranian dressed as a rabbit. She hugged Vikia and her eyes filled with tears as she had missed her uncle. Pomeranian got angry and started hitting Vikia on the shoulder since she didn't know why he hadn't returned home. While our boy was trying to calm her down, Osiris' eyes filled with joy and he couldn't help but smile, revealing that Pomeranian had missed Vikia very much. With a cheerful gaze, he explained that father had given him free time to bring Pomeranian here to the academy. Vikia took Pomeranian in his arms and soon realized that she had used the wise patriarch as her escort. Osiris revealed that recently, she had been holding all the authority within the house. Last month, she got on Hugo's shoulders and they went to a chocolate bean field. She started pointing at the trees and mentioned that she liked blood bean chocolate. So Hugo destroyed the monster region on the western front line and made a cocoa farm there. Upon arriving home, Pomeranian threw herself to the ground and began to cry, protesting as she missed Vikia, swearing not to eat until visiting him. Hugo's eyes were full of exhaustion. He began to sweat and at the end of Pomeranian's hunger strike, which lasted a long time of 2 meals, Hugo allowed Osiris to visit Vikia. Back in the present, Pomeranian hugged Vikia and her eyes filled with joy as everything had turned out just as she had planned. Osiris' attention was fixed on Vikia and he asked if he knew that after he left, Pomeranian had become depressed. A smile spread across his face since it had been a while since the last time he had seen Pomeranian's smile. Vikia's eyes widened in surprise upon seeing that Osiris could make such a face. Osiris' eyes widened with joy and a kind smile appeared on his face. A stage to becoming a sword master was recovering emotions, and maybe Osiris didn't know it himself. But this was really good for him. Not long after, Pomeranian fell asleep. Osiris carried her on his back and put his hat on her. Since they arrived at the academy, they had been looking for Vikia. And for this reason, she was tired now. He turned to Vikia and asked him to make sure to spend time with her while they were here. Vikia began to observe them and nodded. With a sincere smile, Osiris also revealed that the trade Vikia had established was progressing well with their alliance with the merchants of Massimo-Gennaro. The reality was that our boy had already heard about it. The commission for investigating past affairs had been created before he entered the academy. Osiris Le Baskerville was exclusively in charge and had revealed the illicit acts between the Baskerville and Massimo-Gennaro families. A trial was held, and the Baskerville family officially apologized to the Massimo-Gennaro family. In the trial, Cindevaint was standing on her feet and staring intently at a man kneeling before her, and behind them were some heads. He had heard that in the process, old members of Baskerville who had participated in the macabre plan were decapitated. Vikia began to imagine Cindevaint from behind. Due to this event, Cindewind also released part of her anger and joined forces with the Baskerville family, and only she would know whether she had truly forgiven the Baskerville family or not. Osiris began to gaze toward the ground, put his hand inside his suit, and revealed that the reason he had come to visit him tonight was not just because of Pomerian. He took out a letter with a red seal and a ring and handed them to our boy. Vikia grabbed the letter, and his attention was fixed on it. He couldn't help but become curious without knowing what it was. Osiris looked away and explained that the ring had been found near the place where the demon who had stolen Set's body had died. Vikia grabbed the ring, and his eyes began to shine with hatred. He started observing it in silence. Osiris believed that the ring possessed a unique ability. So Hugo told him to give the ring to Vikia since he had contributed the most. The ring began to emit an intense mana. Vikia became curious, not knowing if this ring would allow him to use the barrier that Andromalius had used. The statistics of the ring appeared. It was called Divine Immortal Ring and had the ability to summon a barrier. Osiris' eyes widened with concern. He looked away and decided to talk about one last thing. He revealed that this letter had been written by Hugo with words he wanted to say to his son. Vikia began to observe the letter, and his eyes widened in fear. He could not believe what his eyes were seeing. With a confused gaze, he turned to his brother and asked if it was really a letter written by the patriarch. Osiris' eyes filled with tranquility. He began to smile and mention that he knew Vikia was surprised and asked him not to worry since he had also received a letter from father. He started walking, waved goodbye to Vikia with his hand and decided to leave, asking him to take his time to read the letter. Our boy kept the letter, and with a curious and confused expression, he began to say goodbye to his brother with his hand. The attention of all the men was fixed on him. They could not help but blush since they had never seen a woman as beautiful as him. Curiosity consumed our boy's mind. He opened the letter without knowing what Hugo wanted to tell him. While the people were enjoying the festival, Vikia opened the letter and decided to read it. Hugo knew that by the time Vikia read the letter, he should be thinking about becoming a swordmaster just like his brother Osiris. Vikia's attention was fixed on the letter, and his eyes widened in surprise and confusion. He began to imagine Hugo staring at him. He couldn't believe that Hugo had realized that his level was that of a top-ranking graduate. A few days ago, Hugo sat in his office and, with a penetrating gaze, began to write the letter for Vikia. He knew that his son must be stuck in the 7th Fang at this moment since he was still a top-ranking graduate. He explained that to execute the 7th technique perfectly, he had to reach the level of Swordmaster, so he had written down the process he went through on his journey to achieve that level. Upon reading this, Vikia did not take long to realize that Hugo was telling him how to become a Swordmaster. At first, he was paralyzed, but then he crumpled the letter. His eyes began to shine with hatred. He clenched his fist and gritted his teeth upon seeing that this was the process to become a Swordmaster. While people were enjoying the festival, near the entrance of the bar sat Bianca with her head resting on her hand. She closed her eyes and sighed since she had to doubt herself again. Just then, someone with long hair passed in front of her. Seeing this, her eyes widened in surprise, and her attention was fixed on the hair. She began to observe the hair and couldn't help but blush and feel jealous. She didn't know what was happening. They were two women, one with red hair and the other with blue and red hair. They were Serre and Rose. Serre clenched her fist and, with a serious gaze, began walking through the festival. While on the other side, Rose became curious and started observing the surroundings. Despite wearing a mask, Bianca knew that she was beautiful. Serre's body began to release mana, and all the men's attention was fixed on her. This is the end of the video. The combat left a large crater in the ground, right next to the orphanage dormitories, and in the middle of the crater were Vikia and Serre. While the curtain of smoke was disappearing and Serre was lying on her knees on the ground, Vikia began to stare at her and raised his sword. Vikia clenched his fist tightly, making the blade of the Beelzebub sword begin to shine. The eyes of our boy began to shine, and with a killer gaze, he swung the sword forcefully, making it gradually start advancing towards Serre. Serre was too wounded to defend herself. She lowered her head ready to face the cruel fate. But then something happened, and strands of red hair began to float. As Vikia's sword was slowly approaching Serre's head with speed, Rose stepped in between and while looking at the ground, extended her hands. Vickers' attention was fixed on her, and his eyes widened in surprise and confusion. Originally, the undead were very jealous of what they did not have, so they had the nature to bite and blindly attack living beings. Rose did not even look Vickers in the eyes. Despite being an undead, she seemed to have some awareness. Our boy observed her carefully and noticed that she was different from the others. Saya was kneeling on the ground, paralyzed by the mana backlash. Vickers' gaze was fixed on her. He did not know why the corpse queen and this woman had lost their will to fight. At that moment, a brilliant light focused on the area where they were, and a guard mentioned that they had found the intruders. Upon hearing this, Vickers' eyes widened in surprise and fear. He did not know what was happening or why they had been discovered. He went on alert, began to turn around, and with a serious gaze realized that it was Sadie's voice and that the guards had arrived. While our boy was distracted, Rose took the opportunity to grab Saya, who had lost consciousness. She extended her hand toward the sky and activated a spell, making blue energy appear around them. Feeling this, Vickers' eyes began to shine with hatred and rage. He knew he could not waste any more time. With a furious gaze, he turned around and, while staring intently at Rose with a determined expression, clenched his fists and prepared to finish her off, knowing that he could not let them escape. Vickers' attention was not to attack Rose but Saya, precisely swinging the Beelzebub sword, and the blade of the sword began to advance towards Saya. But just before the attack could reach her, Rose embraced Saya and placed herself in between, causing Vickers' sword to pierce her back. The attack was so powerful that blood began to emerge from her mouth. And little by little she started to lose consciousness. But this was more than enough since the spell fully activated and both disappeared from the place. Vickers began to observe the trace of energy and could not help but feel furious. Someone wearing heels stomped the ground forcefully. It was Professor Sadie and the armed guards. While the light was focusing on Vickers, she placed one foot on the ground, started touching her head, and with a smile, asked the Night Bloodhound to show himself. It was already midnight when Sadie and the armed guards arrived at the area where the crater was, but Vickers had been quick and disappeared from the place. She put her hands on her waist and mentioned that there was no one here. She began to gaze at the ground and murmured, calling Vickers a pig. The attention of one of the guards standing beside her focused on her. He started observing her and couldn't help but fall into confusion. Sadie lost her composure, clenched her teeth, and launched a powerful kick toward the crater. She was furious because they had arrived late, and the Night Bloodhound had fled the place. Now Sadie wore a patch over one of the eyes that Vickers had taken from her. While she was trying to understand how this had happened, something caught her attention, making her eyes widen in surprise. In the middle of the crater was Vickers' mask lying on the ground. This made Sadie even angrier, knowing that he had fled. The reality was that Vickers transformed into a dog and left the area. Now he had already moved quite far from the orphanage dormitories. He started running at full speed and couldn't help but smile. The next day the sun rose and the rays began to hit against the academy windows. Anna clenched her fist and with an excited gaze mentioned that after the exams, the great event of the academy arrived. The festival season was about to begin. In front of her were Vickers, Dolores, Sinclair, Bianca, Tudor, Piggy, and Sancho. Anna began to observe them and with a smile explained that this year's festival concept for the academy was something different. There was a coat rack cart with clothes. Anna's eyes widened with joy. She began to point at the clothes with her hand and, with an excited smile, revealed that this year's concept was a haunted house. Upon hearing this, Sinclair's eyes filled with excitement. She clasped her hands together and couldn't help but smile since it was Halloween. And now that they were free from the difficult exams, the event was going to attract a lot of attention. Dolores put her hand over her mouth and her eyes widened in surprise and excitement. She couldn't help but blush, thinking that dressing up as a ghost was going to be fun. Bianca started touching her chin with her finger and with a confused gaze said that the academy festival did not have this tradition. Tudor, who was next to her and had his arms crossed, turned towards her and with a curious expression thought that she was right. Piggy's eyes were full of tranquility. He turned towards Sancho and mentioned that it was an ancient tradition from which not even the professors could escape. Sancho's eyes began to shine with excitement. He cracked his fingers and with a smile said that traditions were important. Anna took out 2 boxes and with a cheerful smile decided that it was time to draw lots to see who was going to dress up as what kind of ghost. Sinclair and Dollars began to talk among themselves. The vicar, who was behind with crossed arms, began to observe in silence. He lowered his head and with a worried expression began to gaze at the ground and sank into his thoughts. Vicar remembered the moment when Rose had stepped in the way and had received the attack, saving Sayre. The 8th corpse was the corpse Queen Sayre, and not killing the 8th corpse when she couldn't even use half of her powers had been a very big mistake. He began to remember the hounds of Baskerville. In his battle against the demon Andromelius he had to receive help from the knights of the family. Then he remembered his battle against Dantalion, in which he and Dollars were present. Vicar was a high-ranking graduate, but he did not know if he could face the 8th corpse by himself when she was at full power. In the end, to hunt demons one by one, he needed to fully learn the 7th and complete technique of the Baskervilles and reach the level of Swordmaster. Vicar began to imagine a book and 2 molars hidden in his mouth, the 10th technique, stalking ambush, called the 6th fang horizontal ambush twin teeth of wisdom. One had to understand the strange principle between the 6th and 7th techniques and be able to use the ultimate annihilation technique. And the theory behind the 6th and 7th techniques was written in the book Swordsmanship. To overcome the wall of the 6th technique, one had to abandon all human emotions. And to learn the 7th technique, one had to recover their human emotions. In his past life, Vicar's body was full of scars. Yet he still did not understand why one needed to recover emotions that had just been abandoned. Realizing that this required a completely different approach compared to the training methods of basic level graduates, where one learned to kill emotions and become hounds. Vicar placed his hand under his jaw and began imagining his father, Hugo, unsheathing his sword and surrounded by powerful mana. The mind of our boy filled with confusion. He did not know how Hugo had become a swordmaster. While he was distracted, Dollars approached Anna and took out a drawing lot. Her attention was fixed on it and her eyes expanded in surprise. Vicar came out of his trance, turned to her and couldn't help but become curious. Dollars brought the drawing a lot closer, began to observe it, and revealed that she had to dress up as Night Hound. Anna put her hand over her mouth and her eyes widened with concern upon remembering that the Night Bloodhound had recently attacked the Quo Vadis family's orphanage. With a sad expression, she apologized, saying it was her fault. But to her surprise, Dollars said there was no problem and that she was going to do it. She put the drawing lot on her chest, closed her eyes, and couldn't help but blush. Deep down she was in love with the Night Hound. Anna turned to Vicar and with a smile said it was his turn, asking him to hurry up and choose since he was the center of attention. Vicar started touching his cheek with his hand and couldn't help but feel confused. He put his hand inside the box and seeing that everyone was having fun with this reminded him that they were all still young. He took out a drawing lot and upon seeing what he had to dress up as, his eyes filled with fear, he began to stare at it in silence. He didn't know how he had gotten this. Dollars turned her back on everyone. While on the other side, Anna and Sinclair became curious, asking what he had obtained. Bianca also appeared, placed her hands on their heads, and also became curious to know what Vicar was going to dress up as. Our boy remained silent, not knowing what was happening. There was one thing that Vicar had completely forgotten from his past, the tradition during the Academy festival. The day of the festival arrives. Dee and everyone at the Academy dressed up. It was night time, and the atmosphere was relaxing and fun. Somewhere in the festival there was a beer bar. Several students gathered together and with excited smiles clenched their fists and began to cheer. In the bar was Tudor, disguised as a Valkyrie, while holding a rose in his mouth. He extended his hand and with a joyful gaze asked the beautiful lady if she would like to share poems and alcohol with him in Lucan's bar. Sancho was also there, disguised as a cook. While holding a plate with one hand, he began to stir the stew with a spoon, and with a smile welcomed everyone to Lucan's bar, promising that he would give a free portion of hot-blooded stew to all who came to the bar. It was a dish that could make a warrior's blood boil. The lady there was dressed as a vampire. Her eyes were full of joy. She placed her hand over her chest and with a smile said that the customers were going to brighten up the bar. and that she would be waiting for all those who wanted to come. Piggy was dressed as a fairy, his eyes widened in embarrassment and he couldn't help but blush. He approached the customers and with a nervous expression asked them to take this brochure. Seeing that Lucan had such a cute girl, the students couldn't help but blush and their eyes widened in surprise. One of them reached out to take the brochure and nervously asked what the name of this precious fairy was. Just then, Bianca, who was dressed as Frankenstein, appeared and rested her shoulders on those of the two students. With a serious gaze, she told them that they could not flirt with the bar members. Seeing this, with a nervous gaze, the two apologized. While Bianca was distracted, someone wearing a red dress entered the bar. Her attention fixed on them, and her eyes widened in confusion. She didn't know what was happening. There were already several customers enjoying a good meal in the bar, and there was also Dollars who was the waitress. Someone wearing red heels started walking towards her, creating tension. Someone caught President Dollars' attention. The eyes of Dollars, who was carrying a tray with a pitcher of beer and was dressed as the night bloodhound, widened in surprise and curiosity. She turned around to see who it was. Once she turned around, she couldn't help but feel somewhat disappointed and confused. It was Professor Vincy Mogg, who was dressed as a woman. With a confused gaze, Dollars asked what Vincy Mogg wanted from her. The professor crossed his arms and with a serious expression asked what was going on with that costume. Dollars became curious and turned around. Vincy Mogg extended his hand to the side and mentioned that he knew it was a festival, but he was sure that she had thought about how her disguise would impact society. He asked how she could pass herself off as that atrocious, uncontrollable criminal. With her eyes filled with determination, she hesitated for a second, but then said that she liked this disguise. Upon hearing this, Vincy Mogg began to stare at her silently. He turned to the side, closed his eyes, extended his hand, and decided to let her take responsibility for her actions. He could be her academic advisor, but he had no authority to tell her what she could or could not do, so she could do whatever she wanted. Dollars remained silent, not knowing what to say. Tudor's attention was fixed on them, and his eyes widened with curiosity. He placed one hand on his waist, extended the other, and asked what Vincy Mogg was doing here. Sancho crossed his arms and continued observing in silence. Peggy's attention was fixed on them, and with a serious gaze, he mentioned that during the festival, the teachers dressed up and went to their class and club booths to increase their earnings. They started to converse among themselves. Vincy Mogg crossed his arms, and his eyes began to shine with rage, since if it weren't for this disguise, he wouldn't have come here. And besides, the prices of the dishes were not that good. A few minutes later, Dollars, who was holding a tray with food, appeared, and with a calm gaze mentioned that she had brought the potatoes and roasted chicken that he had ordered. Vincy Mogg remained silent, pondering. Dollars placed the food on the table. There was a plate of French fries, roasted chicken, and stew. Vincy Mogg's attention was fixed on the food. He noticed that the quality of the ingredients was poor, and that the dishes were made by someone who was not certified in food safety. These dishes were poorly prepared and full of MSG. Using a spoon, he prepared himself to taste the stew. He had no expectations, thinking that the food was going to taste like garbage. He tasted the stew and was paralyzed. Dollars, who was standing in front of the table with her arms on her abdomen, began to observe attentively, waiting to see what his opinion about the food would be. The look of Professor Vincy Mogg faded, and his eyes expanded in surprise and confusion, making him sweat. His attention was fixed on the food. He did not know why it was so good. He began to imagine the roasted chicken shining and looking delicious. The exquisite smoky flavor and the salty taste emerged from the meat when it was torn apart. And the potatoes that came from the Mogg family's region released a delicious flavor as they gently crumbled. He struck the table forcefully, and with a furious gaze, he began to stare at her and demanded to know who had prepared the food, believing that they had recruited an external chef. Reptcom extended her hand to one side and with a serene gaze mentioned that the chef was one of the members of the club. She was sure that Vincy Mogg knew the chef well. Inside the bar's kitchen there was a witch in front of the grill. They wore red lipstick. It was none other than Vikia, who was dressed as a witch. With a serious gaze, he began to observe the food and began to move the pan. This is the end of the video. If you guys want to see the next part,